The head of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, published an unusual video in which he did not deny rumors about the illness and spoke about his death as a common fate. Social media users believe that this is not an accident, but a message and a veiled hint. Against the backdrop of reports of a serious illness, Kadyrov did not deny the rumors as usual, but on the contrary admitted illness and death are the path of every person. He said that life expectancy is determined only by the one who gave breath, and if he is destined to live 50, 60 or 70 years, he will accept it as a given. Kadyrov also lashed out at those discussing his condition, calling them gossips without courage. Many social media users took this statement as a hidden confession and a hint at Kadyrov's possible imminent departure from his post or even from life. In the video, he sounds not like a powerful leader, but like a person summing up and calling for filling life with kindness, sincerity and gratitude. Particular attention was drawn to the fact that Kadyrov, for the first time, did not deny his illness, but on the contrary, talked about death, emphasizing that everyone's days are predetermined. According to the newspaper Novaya Gazeta. Evropa, Kadyrov was diagnosed with pancreatic necrosis, a disease that cannot be completely cured, 6 years ago. In recent months, his condition has allegedly worsened. He has stopped leaving the Republic and spends almost all his time in the IMED clinic in Grozny under the supervision of doctors. In early May, Kadyrov himself announced his intention to ask Putin to relieve him of his post, although he soon reported that he had not received approval for this request. Nevertheless, in light of his new video, these words take on special weight. If Kadyrov's condition is truly critical, it could mean the approach of an internal political transition in Chechnya, the consequences of which are difficult to predict. For now, there is silence in the public sphere, but Kadyrov himself seems to have begun to prepare the ground for both the Kremlin and his own people. The Kremlin has issued a fake about the heroic rescue of Russian dictator Vladimir Putin, whose helicopter allegedly found itself in the epicenter of a massive attack by Ukrainian drones in the Kherson region. There are serious grounds to believe that this was a crude staging. The intensity of the attack during the flight of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief's aircraft over the territory of the Kherson region increased significantly. Therefore, we simultaneously conducted anti-aircraft combat and ensured the safety of the president's helicopter in the air. In fact, Putin's helicopter was at the epicenter of repelling the enemy's massive attack. The officer of the Russian armed forces, who was obviously tasked with voicing this fairy tale, stated in a rehearsed and unconvincing manner. From the very first words, it became clear that we are not looking at an eyewitness account, but at a carefully rehearsed text. The lack of living details, the repetition of memorized phrases, and the obvious strain in the intonation betray the falseness. It seems that the officer is merely relaying a manual handed down from above, without having any real relation to the events described. The main question that arises when analyzing this story is whether Putin was in the Kursk region at all at the same time in question. Considering the Russian leader's panic fear for his safety, his extremely rare and always carefully staged appearances among the people, the very assumption of his personal presence in the frontline region raises serious doubts. Putin very rarely leaves his residence, preferring to distance himself as much as possible from any risks. His meetings with ordinary Russians have long been the talk of the town. Numerous journalistic investigations have repeatedly exposed how the role of ordinary citizens at such events is played by employees of the FSO and other special services, carefully selected and instructed. If Putin does visit any regions, it happens under conditions of unprecedented security measures, and information about his movements is kept in the strictest confidence. It is unlikely that his helicopter could have been at the epicenter of a real drone attack. Rather, this whole story is just another attempt to create a heroic aura around a figure who in reality prefers to be in a deep bunker, far from any danger. It is important to note that the Kremlin has previously told a story about the alleged shooting down of a helicopter with Putin on board. The dictator himself claimed that in 2000 that he mistook a strike on his aircraft in Chechnya for a salute. There is no evidence that this story actually happened. Putin's army has eliminated the Ukrainian enclave southwest of Toretsk after a 4-month offensive. The enemy's main goal in this section of the front is to reach Konstantinovka. Geolocated footage from May the 25th showed the advance of the Russian armed forces in central Zarya and northern Romanovka. Analysts from the Institute for the Study of War have voiced the situation on the battlefield in this section of the front. The source writes that Putin's army may have occupied Staraya Nikolaevka and Natovka and also captured fields south of Romanovka. The press service of the Russian Defense Ministry has already reported on the occupation of Romanovka. Russian war correspondents write that the battles on this section of the front are being conducted by units of the 68th Tank Regiment of the Russian Federation. One of the Z publics wrote that the Ukrainian armed forces tried to counterattack in the Romanovka area. Analysts estimate that Putin's army captured 65 kilometers squared of territory during the battles for Romanovka and Zarya. The Russian armed forces stepped up attacks in the area in early February 2025 and began a concerted effort to eliminate Ukrainian positions in the enclave south of Romanovka in late April 2025. To accomplish this task, the Kremlin had to redeploy 2 divisions of the 8th Combined Arms Army from the Kuryakovsky direction. However, Russian troops are having difficulty advancing in this area despite the fact that they are apparently prioritizing this sector of the front line and reinforcing it in early 2025. Let us recall that Z-War correspondents are calling on Putin to stop the war since the situation on the battlefield has reached a dead end. Russian Z blogger Maxim Kalashnikov, having returned from a business trip to the border with the Sumy region of Ukraine, published a revealing confession. Soldiers fighting on the front lines do not see the point in the ongoing war. He wrote about this in his Telegram channel, publishing an emotional message that has already gone viral. War fatigue is extreme. Even battle heroes believe that strategically nothing will change in principle, and it is time to end the mass slaughter of people on both sides, Kalashnikov wrote.